Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new segment we're entitling Noble Knows. I'm Brad McMullen, along with Noble McIntyre.
Hey, Brad, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. All right, Noble, we've got the website behind us, and we want everyone to know real quickly, if you haven't had a chance to go to the website, do so, or download the mobile app. Have it right on your phone, so it's just a tap away anytime. All right, it's raining outside.
Yes.
And there are a lot of crashes when it rains, whether it's on the parking lot service in your neighborhood, on the interstate, anywhere out and about. Sometimes people, unfortunately, are not paying attention when it gets wet outside.
You know, it's not just not paying attention. A lot of folks don't really pay attention to their tires. And as you know, a good tire sheds water and tires that are worn out don't. And so you'll get a lot of hydroplaning and situations where maybe the driver is trying to pay attention but just loses control because they haven't properly maintained their car. And so there's a number of reasons why crash rates go up during the rain. One of them certainly is they're not paying attention. One is just the conditions. Sometimes it's raining so hard you can't see, and other times you just lose traction between the tire and the road.
All right, somebody gets in a crash. What's the first thing they need to do?
It really depends on the kind of crash. As you guys know, there's all different kinds. There's the minor little fender bender where you simply get out and exchange information. And that's probably most of them. There are some that are much more severe where paramedics and the fire department are called and somebody's badly injured. And then, of course, occasionally you have, tragically, the fatality accidents where they shut down the road and it takes a long time to clear it. And there's a lot that goes into that. So with respect to your question, what's the first thing they should do? Let's just assume that it's a typical crash where, you know, it's banged up some cars, but nobody needs an ambulance. You should trade information with the other side. I always tell people, because you never know when someone hands you that insurance verification, is that really real? Things get doctored, things are fraudulent, and sometimes it's not them. Everybody's carrying a smartphone. Take a picture of the tag number of the car that caused the crash. Ask to take a picture of the driver's license of the person who was driving. Compare that picture to the person. Make sure it's the right person. The last thing you want to do is drive away and not have their driver's license and not have their tag number, because people, unfortunately, some are dishonest and they'll say anything they can to leave the scene.
That's great. I'm just imagining somebody sitting there and thinking, hey, I've got the information, I've done everything right. And then you find out that's actually not the right person.
Well, the unfortunate reality is, even though Oklahoma is a mandatory insurance state, which means everybody has to have insurance to drive on the roadways, not everybody does. And there is a percentage of people that will get their insurance, go down and get the tag for their car, and cancel their insurance. And so they've got the insurance for the purpose of getting tagged, and then they cancel. Is the system designed to set up to alert folks at the agencies that yes, somebody's done that? Yes. But does it slip through the cracks? Yes. And so it is not uncommon for us to have somebody contact us that has been badly injured in a crash, and we find out that there's no insurance for that very reason.
Crazy stuff. All right, I know a lady in Norman was in a minor fender bender, not a big deal. She didn't feel injured at all. 6 months later now, she's got chronic back pain, neck pain, and finding out it all came from this one accident, but she signed paperwork and it's gone. How do you avoid that?
Well, what I tell folks, because it's not uncommon that somebody will be at the scene of a crash and the adrenaline is up. You get into a crash and your adrenaline spikes through the roof. You're happy that you don't feel hurt or that you're not badly injured. You're concerned about anybody who might have been a passenger in your car. And frequently, you're just not concerned about yourself in that moment. There's people who get out and they're more concerned about their car than they are themselves, even though cars can be replaced. And so what I tell folks is, listen, if somebody else has caused that crash, at least go to the doctor and get checked out. It may be that nothing's wrong with you, but go get checked out. Certainly don't sign any documents that releases your claim until you had a medical professional look at you. The reason they do x-rays is to see things you can't see with your naked eye. The reason they do tests as range of motion is to determine things that maybe as everyday citizens, and we don't have that kind of knowledge, don't know to do. And so go get checked out. Take that step, go get checked out before you sign anything, because I promise you this, the insurance companies and their adjusters, and I tell this to people all the time, that the insurance adjusters talk to you on the other phone. I don't care how friendly they are. I don't care if it's your own agent. The hard, true reality is they're not your friend. They have an agenda, they have a goal, and it is not necessarily to protect you, it's to protect the bottom line of the company. And so keep that in mind in those dealings, and that they're not your friend. They're not the one looking out for you. You have to be proactive and look out for yourself.
And one of the big mistakes that you see out there is that you may actually be in an accident and you may know the other driver and you feel like, you know what, I'm not going to report it to the insurance agent because it's my friend. But here's the key, is that person has insurance for a reason, and you don't know about a chronic pain that may be coming back because of a result of that accident.
That's true. And the bottom line is this, you ask yourself the different kind of people that are out there. So I obviously have an insurance policy when I drive around. the odds that I'm going to hit somebody that I know or that I'm related to are admittedly low, but it happens. It's why I carry insurance. What kind of friend would I be if I tell somebody important to me, listen, let's not talk about this. Let's not tell my insurance company, you're okay, right? I mean, really? I'm going to do that to somebody that I care about and love? So if you're in that situation and you're the one that's injured, and again, we're talking about a very remote situation, but it happens, and that person says, let's not turn us into insurance, you got to ask yourself, how much do they really like you? I mean, we carry insurance for a reason. If I hurt somebody, I want my policy to take care of that person because I feel bad that I've hurt them.
Yeah, and you have no idea, again, what the medical bills will be long term. Because you talked about it, the adrenaline that maybe happens at that moment, or short term, you're like, I'm fine.
You're right. And you brought up another topic. You talked about somebody who's been injured and then maybe they didn't go to the doctor for a while. And then they start hurting and they go to the doctor. In the legal profession, we call it a gap in treatment. And when it comes time to resolve a claim, gaps in treatment are hard to overcome because you have to remember, if a case doesn't get resolved, where does it go? It goes to a jury made up of 12 people that you don't know and I don't know, and the injured person doesn't know. And you're trying to convince these folks that you're hurt. Well, if you were in a crash and you don't go see a doctor for 3 or 4 months, you're trying to tough it out, you're trying to do the right thing, I'm not going to go to the doctor, and then you get to the point where you just can't. You think you've done the right thing, all you've done is hurt your case because the 12 people on the jury are going to think, if I was hurt, I'd have gone to the doctor. And so the fact they didn't go to the doctor means what? They weren't hurt. And so here you are trying to do the right thing, and all you've done is help the insurance company. So what I tell people is if you've been injured in a crash, go see a doctor and get checked out. Start that charting process now, because when you go to tell your story to a jury later, having that documentation will help you.
So number one thing, remember, take a picture of their license plate, their driver's license, their identification, so you are able to show this is the person who caused the accident.
Correct.
The second thing, get checked out. Even when it seems minor, even when it doesn't seem like I'm really that hurt, it's important, crucially, both for your case, short-term and long-term, to have a medical evaluation.
Yeah, and you think about that. There'll be people out there that say, come on, you're going to go get checked out. Listen, what happens when you're watching sporting events with players making millions and millions and millions of dollars? They slightly tweak their ankle. Okay, they pull them off the stand, they don't play anymore. You know what they do? They send them to the doctor to make sure they're okay, even if it seems minor. Why? Because your health is important. So it's not ridiculous. It's not being unkind to go to the doctor and get checked out. They do it in sports. If you've been injured or if you think you have something that feels differently than it did before, go get checked out. It may be nothing. Fantastic. We don't want people to be hurt. But if it is, you're going to be happy you went and got checked out. At the end of the day, cars can be replaced. Health is what's important.
Yeah, and of course, get your case evaluated by McIntyre Law. You never know. You might need money long term because of an injury in that minor accident. But some of these major accidents happen, especially when the roadways are slick. And you talked about the maintenance of the tires. You have a lot of these 18-wheelers that are on the road where, unfortunately, those units may not be well maintained.
You certainly have some of that. It's tough. There's so many 18-wheeler drivers out there that are fantastic people that do a great job, and they will drive millions of miles without ever having an incident. But then you'll get some, and it's like any profession. There's bad lawyers, there's bad doctors, there's bad car salesmen. In any profession, there's going to be a percentage that cuts corners and doesn't do the right thing. Unfortunately, those folks cause the accidents and crashes at a much higher incident rate than the ones that are out there doing it really well and doing it professionally. So yes, these 18-wheelers, the unfortunate thing about an 18-wheeler crash is that most of those times, those are significant injury crashes, if not a fatality-causing crash. And so, we do a lot of those. Unfortunately, I have seen some crash scenes and some injury scenes, some death scenes that the average person just couldn't get out of their head. And so you've got to be careful when you're driving around those because they're such big vehicles.
Yeah, and you need a big firm that can fight for you, and that's exactly what McIntyre Law will do. More than $250 million right here in Oklahoma. Oklahomans fighting for Oklahomans, and I'm seeing you here with the OU shirt. For people that don't know, Noble is a huge supporter of OU athletics. He loves Oklahoma football, basketball, you name the sport. We went to the softball game. We helped Patty win.
Yeah, if I hadn't been there, if we hadn't been there, maybe we wouldn't have got that big win. And speaking of Patty, I have this turkey event every year where we give away hundreds and thousands of turkeys, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of turkeys the Friday before Thanksgiving every year. OU sends the Sooner Schooner. I think it's the only non-official school event that they come to. And every year a coach comes. And it's been Lon Kruger in the past. And last year, Patty came out and she brought the national championship trophy. And Aaron Miller came out, who's won several rings with OU. And so I do a lot with OU, but OU does a lot back with me, and I appreciate them very much. In fact, I just traded a text with the president of OU a moment ago on a new intern that I'm going to have this summer that's starting his first year of law school.
That's so awesome. But it's all about community involvement. That's why you support OU and other schools all throughout the state, because you want to give back to this community.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Burns Flat, Oklahoma, a small town out in western Oklahoma, graduated in the class 21, 24, I don't know, wasn't very big. And I learned very early on from my pastor out there is that, look, if God's going to give to you, you have a responsibility to give back. And I've tried to make that a centerpiece of who I am. And it's worked out well in the sense I'm not doing it to get back, but I certainly do get back. I don't do the turkey thing as a marketing deal. But every year I get cases from people that received a turkey at one point. Why? You think about it. You have several thousand people coming out there that I'll talk to and I'll greet and we'll give a turkey to. I don't expect anything. But there's a certain percentage of those folks that are going to need a lawyer at some point. They don't know a lawyer except for me. And so even though I don't do it for that, I get back from that because I'm the person they end up calling.
And let's talk about, last but not least, you recently recognized as being one of the top 1% of trial lawyers in the United States. What does that mean to you to be recognized?
Well, I got to remember there's different categories. And I would think people would say, well, what does that mean? What 1%? Who decided? Certainly are there different organizations from that particular one. I did. I don't know that means any more than when I became president of the Oklahoma Trial Lawyers Association. That's more of a vote of my peers saying, you know what, out of all the lawyers in Oklahoma, this is the person we choose to represent us this year. That was a huge honor. The 1% thing is a huge honor. But my biggest honor and my biggest accomplishments to me come from when I have a family come in that has been devastated as a result of somebody else's negligence and they just don't know where to turn or what to do. I mean, their life is in shambles, and trying to help them put the pieces back together the best I can and get them back on a foundation where they can move forward. That's more important than any honor I could get, or even being the president of the Trial Lawyers Association, knowing that somebody came to me when they were at rock bottom, and when they left, at least they were back on their 2 feet.
Amen. Noble McIntyre, thank you so much. And again, if you know of anyone that has suffered negligence by somebody else or involved in a crash, an accident of any kind, download the Noble McIntyre Law app. Of course, you can call the phone number right there on your screen, scan the QR code, and get a fighter and an entire team of fighters who will fight for you. For this segment of Noble Knows, I'm Brad McMullen.